Imagine yourself strolling along the beach, or trekking in the woods, or soaring above the clouds. How would you translate those experiences onto the canvas?
On August 5, 1473, a young aspiring artist decided to draw the beautiful Tuscan landscape. This quick sketch by Leonardo da Vinci marks a revolutionary moment in European art. To look at mountains and trees just for themselves was unprecedented. But centuries before the ages of Leonardo, the Chinese artists had already been capturing the grandeur of nature in their works of art.
So to explore the nuances of landscape paintings, let us immerse ourselves in nature through the ink and paint of ancient artists. A few hundred meters east of the capital's Forbidden City sits the National Art Museum of China. Among many of its thematic exhibitions held this summer, the museum hosted a show that displayed a range of landscape paintings by ancient Chinese masters.
This painting from one of the most famous painter in Ming Dynasty is called Tang Yin. This painting can see mountains and water. And this one, you can see the horizon, but because of the hanging scroll, this format, you have multiple perspectives.
Chinese painters hope to offer viewers a greater space for imagination and present a more than simple description of the visible world. So they deliberately avoid the use of perspectives. In the West, viewers are accustomed to having the artist create depth and space for them in a painting. The painters strive to recreate a real view of what they see.
In North Song Dynasty, there's a famous painter called Guo Xi, and he have a method of painting landscape, a method of three distance, like high distance, far distance, and level distance. So it actually shows the different ways how you look at as a landscape. For example, you look up, you look down, and you look forward, the three ways. But the three ways can be used separately and also can be used together to give an impression of the mountains, distance, and the different viewpoints. Our ancestors developed a way to use a multiple viewpoints, like a floating perspective, to see the landscape and to present the landscape to the viewers. We can refer to Johannes Vermeer, one of his paintings, Astronomer. For example, the Chinese way of shanshui, you don't necessarily need to be in the scene. You are like the astronomer holding a globe. You can choose whatever angle you want to see, entirely up to you. So when we talk about, for example, Western, we call it landscape. There's a land and scape, right? There are two words. First you have a land, then you have a scape, which is you need to have a horizon. For example, you have seascape, you have a cityscape, but all the same, you have to put yourself in the scene and to see whether it's city, whether it's sea, whether it's like, the land with mountains. But you put yourself in the view. But for the Chinese way, you don't necessarily need to be in the scene. But for the Western methods, it's like using a camera. You have to stand in the scene and click and take the photo. That is the scene in front of you. It's like framed.
Colors were used by artists as far back as 40,000 years ago. They're essential in helping artists to render the world as they see it. To a certain extent, the invention of new color pigments prompted the development of art history's greatest movements. Yet the use of color is rather restrained and subtle in most Chinese literaties' artworks. Deemed an extension of calligraphy, traditional Chinese paintings use various shades of ink and different styles of brushstrokes to depict nature. Now, what about this painting? This isn't monochromatic?
Yeah, it's colored, using the blue and the green as a main color to depict the mountains. What we can see from this painting is that the very typical use of the 青绿山水, the green and blue landscape paintings in the Chinese tradition. This is typical. So when we look at this painting in detail, you have rocks and you have pavilions, houses, there's a forest, there's small passes, and small, waterfalls. So that gives you the idea, if you walk into the forest, that's what you get.
This painting is quite interesting because it's colored.
Green represents the forest, so it's like naturalistic representation. However, about the blue, there's a similarity of the Da Vinci's method, because Da Vinci developed the aerial perspective. What aerial perspective is, because the air and the humidity of the air, the oxygen, the nature's effect. So the mountain, if you look the mountain so far, the mountain becomes a blue color. For example, if you think about the Mona Lisa, if you look at the back, the mountains are blue. But in China, we don't talk about the methods, but through their own eyes, they can see the mountain by far is blue color. So we use the same method, even though Da Vinci never had any conversation with the Chinese artists. So theoretically, they are using the same method, but just a different, explanation and understanding.
Malachite green and azurite blue were favorite colors among Chinese court painters. These minerals were often used to evoke a dreamy utopian landscape. One of the most symbolic works is a panorama of rivers and mountains from the Song dynasty. Rich in color and expressive in minute details, this 900-year-old masterpiece presents a majestic landscape spread across a 12-meter-long silk scroll. When this legendary artwork went on exhibition at the Palace Museum in Beijing in 2017, people flocked there from across the country, lining up for hours just to get a glimpse of it. And artist Zhao Dabai was among the visitors. He explains to me why Chinese painters often express their desire to be at one with nature.
我是觉得，我如果作为一个城市人的话，我可能很依赖于城市的便捷，门口有便利店啊，或者说我发快递非常方便。但我如果作为一个生灵或者生物的话，我可能更看重的是我与自然的关系，什么样的天气会有什么样的湿度，然后今天晚上的乌云会不会让明天下雨？ 这个其实会让我们去思考，其实人跟自然它并不应该被一些混凝土啊、钢筋啊隔绝开来，因为人还是一定会依靠于自然的。我作为一个画画的人来说，当我置身在自然界中，听到那些白噪音的时候，流水啊、蝉声啊、鸟鸣声，那个时候我会把自己安放下来。
From very early times, the Chinese viewed mountains as sacred and the abodes of immortals. Being in nature was a retreat for refreshing one's spirit and mind. The beauty of mountains and water nurtured the minds of many scholars throughout Chinese history.
Now to relax and recharge like the ancient Chinese painter did, we take a trip to the great outdoors. 60 kilometers north of downtown Beijing, Shentangyu is an enchanting destination tucked away in the mountains. The tranquil and serene vibe of this place has an almost healing power.
中国古人呢是以这种游览山水、游览完之后来进行创作的这样的一种方式。比如说，他不会现场的把整个的这样的一个景物全画进去，而是说中国山水画更像是一个游后感式的这样的一个作品。
油墨感。
对，比如说他会有这样的写生，比如说在敬浩的笔法记里面曾经提到过，说因经其意便赏之，明日写笔赋就写之。说的是什么呢？就是因为我看到这棵松树，哎呀，它长得实在太美了，但是我把它画下来，然后回家呢，作为我画的一个元素，然后它要重新的组合，然后重新的得到一幅画面。
Chinese landscape paintings are seldom mere representations of the external world. While they reflect the artist's temperament and aspirations, they can also be used to convey political messages.
北宋时期的这样的一种全景式山水，事实上它是有一定的秩序的。这种秩序呢，又与当时的社会的一些结构是有着关系的。比如说全景式山水，中间都有一座非常大的主峰，周围的有一些小的山峰的这样的一种排布。这种排布肯定不是自然界有的，这是一种等级社会所造成的这样的一种画面秩序。因为我们经过五代时期这样的一个战乱，一直到宋代一个非常大一统的这样的一个国家，人们都渴望一种秩序，人们在绘画中能够感受到一份安详。
Back to the city center from Shentangyu, we take a half-hour car ride to the Tsinghua University Art Museum, where an exhibition spotlighting Chinese artists' appreciation of nature is being held. Throughout this entire journey, there have been two pressing questions on my mind. Why do Chinese place such importance on nature in their arts? And why has Chinese landscape painting been taken to such extreme heights?
我想要回答这个问题呢，我们一定要先从中国人独有的审美观或者是要审美意识上来回答这个问题。那么中国人自有的这种审美观呢，与他们的自然观和山水画之间的渊源是分不开的。他们老子的《道德经》里边就提到了人法地，地法天，天法道，道法自然。当然我们必须要提出的是，这时候的自然并不是我们现在所说的这种万事万物、世间万物这种自然，它更多的倾向于万事万物的这样的一种法则和规律的一种阐述。这种观念呢，延续到后面，影响了我们后世的整个对于山水和中国传统文化的一种哲学观，奠定了这样的一个基础。
While landscape and the arts between the East and West differ in their aesthetic qualities and worldview, when we put them together as a whole, they give us a history of perception, how men look at the natural world. I mean, even the most realistic depiction of the natural realm is the artist's reading on the image of the world. So for me, I think when I look at a landscape painting, I don't think I'll ever see it the same again.
Lin Lin, CGTN.